Okay, this is going to be a tutorial where I am going to go through a step-by-step process in lighting this room. I will be moving quickly, and if you feel like you need more instruction on lighting or rendering, you can watch some of the other movies that I've made on those subjects, and you will have the ability to watch through this a few times or pause and rewind if I seem to be moving quickly. But I just want to make sure I get to everything and within a decent amount of time. So right now I have a scene set up here. I have my render set up for 864 by 486. My viewport 2 is on. I am using just default lighting right now. And I have my hardware texturing turned on. And I don't have my shadows turned on, but I probably should. Oh, I don't have any lights or shadows, so that's why I don't have that as an option. Let's do a render so we can see what this looks like in the render view for the default lighting. Okay, so this is what it looks like so far. I'm just going to delete everything that I have in here. I have a few things in the scene that I just want to step through. My render is mental ray, and my render settings are set to preview. Let's look into another viewport. This is my perspective camera. I just want to show you a couple things on a perspective camera that might be helpful when working with rendering a scene. If I tumble around, you see I can move around in my perspective view. But if I have a scene set up that I don't want to change, I have these things called bookmarks. And I have saved a bookmark. And it saves a camera position. So if you get to a camera position you would like to save, you can come into your viewport on that camera and just click on the viewport, and it will create this camera view. This is a bookmark. So if you go to View, Bookmarks, you will see Camera View 1 is one of your bookmarks. So that's a way that you won't lose your camera position if that is something that you would like to save. Now, I created a second perspective camera, so I can use this one as a work camera and use it to tumble around the scene and get in and move things around if I would like to. I'm going to turn this perspective camera, the viewport 2, on, and hardware texturing, because I just wanted to show you a few little things. My room is made up of a plane on the bottom, plane on the ceiling. I just made some molding just to add a little detail to the room. I would add a lot more detail to this room if I was using this to create an image, but I'm just using this for demonstration. I have a basic table. I also used some of the lighting models that I've created. I have a window here, and I have the chandelier, the ceiling light. I created a little light bulb in there, and I put let's see what material I have on that. My light bulb material is a Lambert, and I have the incandescence turned all the way up. So when I render this, if we are in a position where we see that light bulb, it will be bright white. And my glass has transparency on there, but no refractions. And if you notice, we have a backyard outside. That is just a plane. I mapped an image onto this plane, no projection, just a straight image. And I just moved it in the back just so we have something that we can see outside the window. Now that image is used with a surface shader. So if we do a render, this image will always look like this. Okay. And we do have a movie talking about surface shaders, so you can check that out. let's get in and start lighting the scene. So what's the first step? Well, we do have two areas in this image that are utilizing actual light. We have the ceiling lamp, and we have a window where light would be coming through the glass in the window. So let's start with the ceiling lamp first. I will create a spotlight, and let's move that into position. Let's go to one of these other views, and let's rotate this so it's pointing down. Change this to -90. And let's move this all the way up. Come into our attribute editor and expand our light. Move it down a little bit. Now let's go back in and turn our lighting to use all lights so we can see what's going on in here. So we have our light. We need to adjust this penumbra. Let's soften that up a bit. Let's add a little drop off. Maybe we can turn this up to 1.5. And we do have shadows. Let's see what this looks like before we use any shadows in this scene. So let's do a render. Okay, so this is what we have going on so far. This is the default light, and this is our lighting that we're starting. So let's go ahead and turn shadows on. Now, because we have a glass bowl that's using refractions and transparencies, we're going to need to use ray traced shadows. So let's close our render view. We'll turn our ray trace shadows on. And I'll just increase some of that stuff to soften the ray trace shadows a bit. Now let's do a render. And it looks okay. I'm not sure if we're having any issues with our light being too close to that light bulb. We have a lot of speckled areas, and that will be cleaned up by increasing the shadow rays. So let's just take a look at this light. You can see how it's sitting partially inside this light bulb, and we may have problems with that. So let's go in and do a light linking, and we'll make sure that this spotlight is not linked with this light bulb. So let's come up to our outliner so we can see everything that we have in our scene. First, let's take the spotlight and rename it. Let's call it light. You know what? Let's call it ceiling light. All right, and with that selected, let's go up to Window, Relationship Editors, Light Linking, Light Centric. So I think I want to illuminate everything except for the light bulb. So let's go into the ceiling lamp, deselect light bulb, and now let's do another render. It's from the wrong viewport. Okay, it looks like we're definitely getting some more illumination. So I think we were having some issues with that light bulb. So you just have to be careful if you're placing your lights inside something and you're turning your shadows on, you will lose the light inside that object. So you can just do your light linking to fix that. I'm going to leave the speckledness for right now just so we can get through some renders a little quicker. So this is looking pretty good. I think what we can do is make an adjustment to our ceiling light, and let's use a decay rate. Let's go with a quadratic, and we're going to have to crank up our intensity. Let's go up to 200, and it looks like it's starting to get there. Let's crank it up a little more, and let's do a render and see how this looks. And that looks like it's definitely way too hot on here. So let's decrease the decay, and we'll decrease our intensity. Let's go down to 50 and just see what that looks like. 10. Let's go up to 20. All right, let's check this out. Okay, this is okay for now. We're going to add a few more lights, so we'll see how everything responds when we add the additional lights, and we can always come back in here and increase our intensity. This is good for now. So let's address the light coming in from the window. For now, I'm going to place my ceiling light into a layer over here. So I'll create a layer from selected. I'll call it ceiling light layer. And I'll just hide that light. So if we do a render right now, let me save this so we can see our steps. Let's just do a render quick. And with that light inside a layer, and I hide that layer, it's essentially hiding that light so we don't have any light in this scene anymore, which is good. Let's just work on the directional light, the sunlight coming through the window first. So we are creating a sunlight coming through the window, so let's grab a directional light. And let's put that into position. I'll just grab this and place it over by the window. And let's kind of get in on this view. And let's rotate this around. Thought it would be nice to have this light kind of shining in and hitting the wall a little bit. Let's rotate this around. And if we look in our camera view over here, we can, if we rotate this light around, you can see how it affects our room. And it looks like we're lighting up our wall right here. Let me shrink that down a little bit. See, now I just moved my camera, which I kind of wanted to keep that camera position that I had so I can go back to view and bookmarks, grab my bookmark and get my camera back into position. So now we're not seeing any shadows because we haven't turned any shadows on yet. So let's go into our attribute editor. We'll change the color to add a little bit of yellowish kind of color coming in, orange yellowy, just a little bit, just to differentiate the light from the sun and the light from the light bulb. You get different color temperatures with different lights. So when you differentiate it with a slight bit of color, it helps make the light stand out and look a little bit different. So now, let's turn this back on and let's just do a render and we'll see what this looks like. Good. We're not going to know exactly how this is going to play out until we turn our shadows on. So let's grab our shadows. And again, because we're dealing with transparencies, primarily with the window, we need to use ray trace shadows. I'll do the same thing. Just turn this up a little bit. Whoa, 360, no. Let's just bring it up to 1 for now. And let's do a render. And now you could see the light that's coming from the window is shining on the wall right here. So let's actually switch this to high quality and see if we can see. All right, we're not seeing that shadow still through our viewport. And that is because I don't have shadows turned on. So let's turn our shadows on. And let's go back to viewport 2. And I still don't see my shadows. That's okay. Let's just try to drop this down a little bit. And just so we can see if we can get some of the shadow on the wall and on the floor. Not the shadow, the lights coming through the window. Okay, I could drop it down a little bit so it gets a little closer. Okay, this is looking good. This is good. I'll leave this like this. And let's close this. And let's turn our other ceiling light back on. Actually, before we do that, let's rename this light. Instead of directional light, let's call it sun light. And then let's make another layer for this. Sun light layer. Let's turn our other light on. So now we'll have both of our spotlights. Oh, both of our lights will have the spotlight and the directional light. And let's see how this looks. Okay, so this is our scene so far. So let's take a look and see what we need to address. The top of our room is very dark, so we'll need to get some light coming in. That will be some sort of bounce light, no shadows and no specular highlights or anything. The shadow is very, very dark. We'll have to see how everything plays out once we add some more lights in here. We'll need another bounce light, just coming from another direction. I'm thinking I'll probably color it with a little bit of green because we see a lot of foliage outside. And some of that may be bouncing into the room, and I think it just might offset that yellow light that we have in here also. And then also, if we look inside the ceiling light, we can see that it's very dark in there. And if we had a light bulb shining this amount of light, this would be bright white. You would have blown out highlights in this area. So I think we'll need another light in this area as well. So let's take a look and see what we can do with some of these problem issues. The first one, let's try to get this room, the upper areas of this room, illuminated a bit. So I'll do that by creating a new spotlight. Let's go into this view, find our spotlight. Let's rotate it around so it's pointing upwards. Let's go change that to 90. And let's move this light up a little bit. And let's go to the attribute editor. And in this view, let's crank up our cone angle. Let's crank up the penumbra. And let's take the specular off. And let's bring this down to say 0.4. Let's change the drop off a little bit. That's too much. Bring it up a little bit. I'll turn the drop off down for now. I'm trying to figure out, because you see we have this line where we have these lights kind of merging together, and I don't want to have a dark line, and I don't really want to have a light line. I want to try to have a smooth transition between these lights. So I can maybe even bring the penumbra up a little bit more. That might be too much. You know what? Let's just do a render and we'll see what this looks like. It's looking okay. Let's actually go in. We'll call this ceiling bounce. Let's go to the ceiling light, and I want to increase my shadow rays a bit, just because the stuff is kind of bothering me now. we may not be able to really get rid of all that stuff because we're working in preview right now. It's looking all right. And let's work on creating that second bounce light. I'll make another spotlight. And this time I'll go into this view and say look through selected. Give it this kind of angle. Give it a slight bluish greenish kind of color. And I'll bring the intensity down, say 0.4. And now let's do another render. It's starting to look nice. It may be a little intense, so let's bring it down to 0.25. Let's just see what that looks like. You know what? I think I like that intensity before. Let's go up to 0.35, but let's just take maybe some of the color out. Might be a little too intense with the color. Okay, that's looking pretty good. And let's go and try to take a look at that light inside our chandelier, the ceiling light. And the way I'm going to fix that, let's name our light. This is going to be outdoor bounce light. Okay, good. So let's go back to our perspective one. And I'm going to create a point light and stick it right up where that light bulb is. Before I do anything else, I'm going to save, just in case anything happens to this. Okay, so now I have my point light in the area where my light bulb is. And it looks very bright. So let's call this, well, I would just call it light bulb. Bulb. Light. Now we see it's very bright. What we want to do is to have it very bright just around the lamp and then fall off very quickly. I'm not going to use any shadows. And do I want to use shadows? Oh no, let's not use shadows yet, but let's turn this to cubic. And let's bring this up to 500. And let's just see what this does. Good. Now that created a nice bright area up here. So it looks like our ceiling light is on. Let's close this. Good thing you can do to test out to see what kind of effect your lights are having on the overall scene, especially when you're testing a light like this out, is to hide all the other lights. So we can come in here and hide all the other lights that we have created. Go up to display and say hide selection. And now the only one we have is the light bulb light. So let's see what kind of effect, how much this light is coming down and affecting our table. And it may be affecting this stuff a little too much. So why don't we come in and see if we can take this light down so it doesn't shine on the table so much, because I would rather control the light that's coming down and hitting everything else just with that spotlight. I mean, there's two things we can do. We can either adjust this intensity, so we just have the brightness inside here and it doesn't really fall too much down here, or we can go up and use our light linking so it doesn't affect anything down below. So let's just try it like this. Let's bring this down to 200. And that's looking pretty good. Let's bring it down to, say, 50. Let's just see what it does. See, it's still looking nice and bright, and we have no light coming down here. So I think that's pretty good. I can try 100 and see what that looks like. You know what? Maybe we'll leave it like that, just to give just that little bit extra highlight down here. So let's close our render view, and we'll turn all of our other lights back on. Okay, so now we have all of our lights on, and let's do another render. Okay, pretty good. I think the main thing that we would need to fix right now is this shadow down on the floor. It's way too dark, and we're not getting enough light for it to look like there's light bouncing around in this room. So let's close this, and let's select our ceiling light. I actually think I want to turn the intensity up a little bit too, because we should be seeing a little bit extra light on these walls. Maybe if we go to 25. Okay, and let's take a look at our shadow color. Let's just bring this down. Let's do another render. And something went a little crazy. I don't like what happened. We lost. Let's just try bringing that down, back down to 20. Yay. Okay, somehow that shadow color is changing how our shadow is being shown in this room. Let's move it just a little bit. That is very strange. Okay, I was having an issue where if I changed the shadow color, it was messing up my shadows on the walls or my light on the wall. I wasn't getting any kind of penumbra or anything, any gradual fall off. So let's do a render, and I want to show you what it's doing and how I fixed it. Okay, this looks okay. We have a nice gradation going up. Let's change the shadow color and do another render. And now we had nice gradation of color. Now it's just awful, weird lighting, harsh lighting. The problem is that our light, we have our ceiling light selected. Let's take a look. And our light is right here. And it actually is competing with this chandelier, this ceiling top light. So what I want to do is to go in here and deselect that ceiling top light this lampshade and deselect it from the light linking on the ceiling light because it's being blocked by this lampshade. So let's go in there, and we can see the awful lighting that we have. Let's do a little save so we can compare. We'll go up to Relationship Editor, Light Linking, Light Centric, the ceiling light, and now let's find our ceiling lamp and deselect the lamp shade. And now let's do another render. And that looks nice. Much better. And it cleared up a lot of that speckledness that was going on. So look, there we go. Awful. Nice. Awful. Nice. Okay, so this is looking much better. And our shadow down here is looking much better too. If we want, we can come in and even add a little bit of, oh, not there, a little bit of color to that shadow. Can add a little bit of blue, maybe a little bit of green. Let's, you know what, let's come in here and change that blue to a little greenish. All right, let's do another render. Yeah, it's way too much. Sometimes a subtle change can make a big difference, and let's just add just a tiny little bit. Okay, cool. That's looking pretty good. Now let's increase this sunlight on the wall. I think that should be a bit brighter. Change this to, let's just go to 2 and see what it looks like. Cool. I think that's looking pretty good. And let's increase the ceiling light a little bit. See where we are with this right now. We're at 20. Let's go to 25. That's what we tried before. What we can try to do is even, you know what? I like it like this. Let's just leave it like this for now. You can see we're getting our shadows properly because we're using the ray trace shadows, and we're getting a nice fall off. We can, let's call up the sunlight again, and let's increase the shadow rays for this area. Let's bring it up to 24 and see if that will clear up a lot of that speckledness. Okay, great. That looks nice. And this is what we have going on here right now with this scene. And I think this would be fine. And this is one way of lighting this room. There are probably an infinite amount of ways that you can light your rooms. But just get it to a point where you're happy and you feel it looks natural enough looking. And I hope you enjoyed lighting a room.